Hey guys, how's it going? Turbo Dude here with a guide on how to best record your PC gaming footage. Now, personally, I can't recommend NVIDIA GeForce Experience and the Shadowplay system enough. It is absolutely fantastic. It's way better than the likes of Fraps. You'll get a small file size and a really high quality recording depending on what settings you choose, and minimal impact on your FPS. It is a godsend. Now, I can't really show you my settings while I'm recording because now it's locked it all off. But basically, guys, if you want to record and you have an NVIDIA card, this is the easiest, no-frills way of doing it. You have the option of having in-game audio and a microphone, like I'm doing right now, or just the in-game, and then you could record mic separately with something like Audacity, for example. I do the same sometimes, or I clean up the audio afterwards after recording. There's also Shadow Time, which lets you record back in time, which is always nice to have running, just in case if you're not constantly recording and something happens that was amazing, you can just tap a key and you record all that back in time, which is pretty useful. In fact, again, it's a godsend if something happened and you weren't paying attention to record. I personally record at 130 megabits a second at 60 FPS. There are some other options, but for my monitor at least, this is the best way to do it. 1080p, 60 FPS. Some other things you could change are hidden away over here in these options. If you want to capture desktop like I am now, then obviously you need to check Allow Desktop Capture. Also the file locations and all that good stuff down there. And that's about it really for GeForce Experience and Shadowplay. 9 times out of 10, guys, if you've seen a video from me, I have been recording with this. And now let's move on to the other recording favourite of just about everybody, Dxtory. Now Dxtory is a little bit more in depth than this. There's a hell of a lot of options, and you can easily lose your mind looking at all this stuff. But basically, if you'd also like to use Dxtory like I do, frame rate 60 FPS. I use the Lagarif lossless codec 9 times out of 10. If I'm not using that, usually I'm using the Matrox MPEG 2 iframe HD, not the alpha, the HD one, this one. I use that, and my particular settings for this is a data rate of 250 meg, 60 FPS. All this left as it is when you first open it. You can move around with this a little bit depending on the quality that you want, to the file size and the impact on your system, but this one has minimal impact on your system compared to the likes of the theoretically lossless codec, which best mode is YV12 with multi-threading if you have the option to do so. And again, 60 FPS. Scaling is 100%, which basically means exactly what your monitor is. In my case, 1920 by 1080. So, these are the settings I tend to have. Audio is a little bit more complicated, and I'll cover it very, very quickly. Depending on what you want to do, the other advantage of Dxtory is being able to add multiple audio options. So, say you're using TeamSpeak, you've got your microphone and your game recording, you can make it into multiple tracks, which is a godsend. Again, it's my favourite word in this video, godsend, because you can have all your tracks split down, rather than the way Shadowplay does it, which is all your audio is all in one file, which isn't particularly great when it comes to editing, because say someone in your TeamSpeak screams over you saying something, or something amazing happening, and you really didn't want somebody screaming, you won't be able to erase it. Whereas this way, you can, because it'll be a separate track, and you can just cut it out, or tone it down, or turn it up, depending on the situation, which makes it a hell of a lot better. So, obviously my microphone is on its own track, and on track 2 is the speakers, which is also the same part of this headset that's plugged in right now. And obviously, if you want to do anything else, you could add some more, virtual audio, for example, if you wanted to do some further mixing. Now, this is where it gets really complicated. If you would like to record other things and have even more track options, there's a nifty little program that's free called Voicemeeter, which I'll just open right now. You may have seen this in some other videos. There's been a few tutorials on it. But basically, this is the setup that you want, depending on what your hardware out is. In my case, it's speakers for the Corsair Vengeance 150 headset. And it's the MME option. I was told the best way to do it was WDM, but that actually gave me some nasty feedback. And MME cleared that up, so not particularly massively certain about what the quality differences are between these two. To me, there doesn't seem to be a difference apart from MME didn't have a hell of a lot of crackling. So yeah, basically, if you copy these settings, this is what you want, depending on what your hardware out is. And then in things like TeamSpeak, you just need to select the particular virtual option, in this case, VB Audio Voicemeeter. And then, in your playback devices, you would want to have that selected as your default. Like so. Oops. This one, for example, is what I meant. This one won't do anything. See? It's this one that we wanted. I really need to change some of the names and stuff. It would be a lot easier. So set as default device. And I think that's just about everything you need to know there, guys. Yep, I think that's about it. And just in case you guys were wondering, because a few people have asked and I wasn't able to explain, my OBS settings for streaming and also occasionally recording, my particular settings are as follows. So, my monitor is 1080p, of course, but for the sake of Twitch, I downscale to 1280 by 720 at 60 FPS, which is fantastic. Audio options are pretty self-explanatory. The encoding is what's really important to you guys. Now, I stick with the X264 encoder. You can use QuickSync or your particular graphics card's options, but the graphics card options, while taking a little bit off your CPU, isn't particularly great quality. You're better off leaving it to the CPU and aiming for a bitrate of about 3500 if you can. A little bit less is not a massive loss, but in my case, when I upload to YouTube, I need to have some margin of decent quality, so by the time I've downloaded it from Twitch and then converted it and then uploaded it to YouTube, it's not lost too much quality. Bitrate for the audio is as is, and again, I think that's about it, apart from checking for multi-thread optimizations. Yep, I think that's just about everything covered. I use a separate system for streaming now, actually, a different PC, so I'm just basically showing you what I used to have my settings at for when it was on the same computer. So I hope that's helped a few guys out that were asking questions about my OBS. And then when it comes to rendering, guys, I will also show you that. This is a multiple guide, this video now. So let's just open something I recorded earlier. Like some Ark Survival Evolved. So I drag that in. Now, to maximize your quality, the first thing you should do is disable resample. You won't notice a difference there, but basically that gets rid of any blurring by not allowing the program to resample it. Lets the program take it as is and then leave it as is. Obviously in this case, because I've been recording at 1080p at 60 FPS, all these settings are relevant if you're recording in the exact same way. If you're recording in 720p, then of course change it to 720p, and so on and so forth. And so when it comes to rendering, I'll just highlight a little section. Render to new track. Now it's remembered my settings from last time. But basically I use main concept AVC AAC, which is just basically MP4. And if I go on to customize template so you can see the actual options, 1080p, obviously, high profile, frame rate of 60, progressive scan, normal pixel normal pixel aspect ratio. Now I'll go for a constant bit rate. Now apparently YouTube mostly deals with about 20 meg for 1080p content. I don't know if that's true, that's just what I've read somewhere. It's probably different now. But I aim for 2800 because you might as well 28 million. But that's what I aim for. I find that to be best. Maximize the quality before it's uploaded to YouTube. Then at least you get the best results possible after it's been converted by the guys at YouTube. So audio is just as high as possible on there as well. And again, guys, that is about it. I mean, depending on what you're doing, you could tinker around and try your own ways, but that tends to be the one I use. You can also use Sony AVC, and there is an internet 1080p option in there, which you could then customize to be 60 FPS, and then obviously aim for the highest possible bitrate on that, which is bizarrely 25,999,360. So yeah, that's the options I use, guys. Hopefully that's helped a few of you. Any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. And yeah, guys, that's been a guide on recording and rendering video of PC gameplay. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.